Camera stop shaking. Happy Saturday, October 29th. This is the last Saturday of October. The next time you guys see us, period, on any level, whether, unless we stream throughout the week, will be on Friday, which will be in November already. Wow, time flies. It's almost the end of the year. Woo. This is going to be a really shortened show tonight, simply because I feel like crap. That's the main reason why you guys didn't see me yesterday, because the allergies just overtook me and I could not even speak. So I'm feeling a little bit better. I'll be going solo tonight for the most part. Fade is not feeling well either, so we're both feeling like crap. But here we are. So the good news is for the most part, we did a lot of extra streams over the last week or so, and that allowed us to cover a lot of the news that was coming out. We've already hit on the DC heads with James Gunn and Peter Safran being named. We were on the night that Cavill was made it very clear that he would be Superman for the foreseeable future. And the only thing we really didn't cover was the Witcher situation, whereas Liam Hemsworth will be taking over for Henry Cavill. And what that means to me is that's a project Henry Cavill loves. So the fact that he's leaving that means that he's doing extensive things elsewhere, not only just with Superman, but other stuff. But primarily, in my opinion, it's Superman. I think that once November 1st comes around, you're going to see a number of announcements that have already been set in place. All these plans are not just reactionary plans. They're going to be rolling out a lot of things. A lot of the stuff that you would have thought, Comic-Con type stuff, like announcement of a next Superman movie or whatever their future plans are. I think you're going to see that sometime this week. I think the decisions have already been made. A lot of people were, like I expressed over the couple of streams we did this week, a lot of people were erroneously thinking that Black Adam's success one way or another had anything to do with the new DC regime's future plans. They just don't seem to be a bunch of reactionary knuckleheads like their predecessors were. So they have a long game, and I think Henry Cavill is pretty much set in stone for a lot of that. He's the key. I mean, we knew he was the key in keeping this particular iteration of the universe. Simply because without Henry Cavill on the page, everybody else is secondary to him as far as how you proceed with this particular DC universe. So him leaving The Witcher is, like I said, now that we know what's been going on, it doesn't surprise me at all. I wish Liam Hemsworth well, but I think a lot of people are attached to Henry Cavill as The Witcher to the point where that show's ratings might drop. I hope not, because I'd hate to, see him step into a briar patch that way. But like I said, Cavill pretty much affirms that he's Superman, and then days later he's gone from a project that meant a lot to him. So, take that as you will. So let me go ahead and say to my chat room. Ooh, ugh, heartburn too. Hey, Chappie, how you doing? Stella, Jar Jar, probably here with old jokes for me. Thank you in advance. Hey, Daryl, how you doing? Went to your first Comic Con in Baltimore. How was it? Who was there? Who was the main guest? And did you get a chance to meet anybody? I need to go to more cons. Hey, Protest, how you doing? Suri, looks like Henry Cavill solidifies his position as Superman. Yeah, and I'm not saying that's the only thing he's doing, but I think it's going to be a significant amount of what you're going to see out of Cavill for the next couple of years, because you figure his own movie, whatever they're going to call it, any cameos that he's doing, and those things take time, pre-production, post-production, voice stuff like that, and then just promoting them. And I'm not saying that Warner Brothers has signed him to an exclusive contract, because a lot of times people won't do that. They won't sign exclusive contracts simply because it closes the door. But if they came in and they had a high value of him and his work, and they really, really wanted him, there is a chance that he could have signed a deal to where he can't do other things. Which, if he did that, I hope he got a lot of money, because there's a lot of opportunity out there for Henry Cavill that you would have to compensate him for missing. I mean, there's a lot of studios, despite with some talking heads might say, Henry Cavill is a very sought after actor. He's 39 years old. He still looks amazing. He's got another 10, 12, 13 years of looking like he does now. I think he's going to, take full advantage of it. But at the same time, Superman's a huge IP. It's an historic figure. In the modern era, only a handful of people have ever played him, and he could end up being one of the most successful ones. So if they've locked him up under the exclusive contracts, that's great. I don't know if he would sign something like that. Like I said, I've always said in this day and era where people can do multiple things multiple times, I don't see a lot of people signing exclusive deals. But Superman is Superman, so he could have. And if he's done that, then that's it. I mean, I hope Warner Brothers took care of him. All right. Things to live by with the word. Yeah, a lot of stuff is going to start happening now. I think prior to James Gunn and Peter Safran being named, they were already. I think this probably they came to that decision right after the Dennis Lin situation where they didn't get him, and I think we even found out about the Lin situation long after it had broken up. So when we found out about Lynn turning down the job or not being able to come to an agreement, I'm almost certain that was like weeks ago, weeks before we found out about it, and they just didn't release it because they had no reason to. So I think right after that, they had James Gunn and Safran on their list, even if they were on the top at the time, they were on that list, and I think they moved really quick. And I think these guys have been in those positions as far as waiting for quite a while, and I think you're going to see that on Tuesday. They assume office on November 1st, which is this coming Tuesday. And just the way that's working and the timing of that, there's no way that this hasn't been in the works for quite some time now. So I expect that once they officially move their stuff into that office, that I would say that the marquee project would be Superman, and I think that they already have their director. I think they already have their screenwriter, even though they say they're shopping it around. I think as this news gets reported to us, it's already happening. It's like a signal that's sent across subspace. That signal takes time to get to the little people, and we're the little people. We're not the executives, so we're finding out things, via the breadcrumbs that the people who are doing this stuff are leaving behind. So I think a lot of this stuff was put in motion. It seems to be moving awful fast. So I'm happy. I'm happy for them. I'm happy for Henry Cavill. I mean, after 5 years of being in limbo, and now to be able to call yourself Superman again and be able to move forward with solid plans, it's a good thing for everybody. To be honest with you. All right, let's see. The comic section under Henry's IG post had a bunch of crybabies whining about he's even. You know what? I wouldn't be too hard. Hey, listen, when he wasn't being Superman, we were pretty pissed off. When the previous management yanked him for being Superman, and I'm not talking about the extremists. I'm talking about moderate guys like me. I was pretty pissed. I thought you were wasting this guy's prime, not having him in the cape. So part of me he's a very important part of that. So he is the personification right now of that character. Now, I'm not saying that they can't do well. Listen, they're not getting some slob that looks like me to play him. They're getting another MILF magnet and Liam Hemsworth. One of the Hemsworth brothers. And I'm pretty sure they'll like him. But I understand that there's a connection with him as a Witcher because he's the only person to ever play that role. And it's ironic because, like I said, I was just thinking about Black Panther. Henry Cavill leaves that role, they immediately recast it, and with Black Panther they couldn't. Obviously, there's death involved and there's tragedy involved, but at the same time, The Witcher isn't stopping production. I don't think and someone in the chat let me know. I'm pretty sure Liam Hemsworth is portraying Geralt, right? Geralt. I'm not. I didn't read. I got the article. I'm going to bring it up, but I haven't. I've been busy all day trying to have my head not explode with allergies. But I am pretty certain that he's going to be playing the same character. So it can happen. Yes, there are different circumstances when it comes with Chadwick Boseman and T'Challa, but at the same time, once again, people stop, the world doesn't. So one group was able to do it, and like I said, the only only Geralt that they've ever seen was Henry Cavill, and other than the video games. So they're deciding they're going to move on. All right, Henry Cavill has been fighting showrunners for years on The Witcher. He has been, but I think hasn't he been winning those battles? So I know and I remember them saying he's had an uphill battle, but he's Henry Cavill. I mean, he stayed, but I think he would have continued to fight those battles if it weren't for that red S. If it wasn't anything out there pulling at him, if it wasn't the oldest comic book character, the oldest comic book superhero, waiting in the wings, I think he would continue to fight those battles. I mean, I'm not him, but the timing is just right there for us. All right, Chappie. Henry Cavill is definitely doing a lot with Man of Steel 2, and plus a very busy man, so it makes sense why he was stepped down to Witcher season 4. Yeah, I mean it's all lining up for him finally. I mean, I remember in 2013, a lot of people didn't know who he was, and then here he is now, 9 years later, back in the saddle. All right, Sri. I admit I got into the show and world thing. A lot of people did. I talked to a lot of people who didn't know they were books and didn't know they were games. You know what I mean? And that whenever you have something that it makes it to a small screen or a large screen, the vast majority of people are not going to be familiar with the source content. And I know a lot of us geeks, and I'm one of them, find that as sacrilege. But we make up a very, very, very finite part of the population. Gamers, people who play games and play games on the level to where they would know. Even if you play games, there's so many games out here. Do you play The Witcher? I mean, a lot of people just don't know. And with Netflix, I mean, they just put out so much stuff. A lot of people just probably got it recommended to them. If they watch anything to do with fantasy or anything else, here comes The Witcher. And I'm pretty sure that the fans that are hardcore Witcher fans are the ones that were the catalyst to even get them on. Because every person that was a Witcher fan watched that show and loved it. Trust me, they went and told their friends. They went and told their families. They went and told their coworkers. So even though they're not the overwhelming majority of it, they are probably the biggest catalyst as far as giving people the chance to even see it. And then Netflix, is what it is. And good job with Netflix. Netflix spent a lot of money on that show. It's a very expensive show to do for a streaming channel. Hey, what's up, Phil Goblin? Sweetie, but you have to let him film what he wants to do. He gave up Superman to do something else passionate about. I would continue. Yeah, I would too. I would too. I think right now though, I just hope he takes this window and runs with it. I hope Time Warner. Holy shit, am I going back too far? I hope Warner Brothers Discovery and DC Studios understands where they are right now. I hope all parties involved are looking at each other right now and seizing the moment and proceeding with a sense of urgency that we haven't seen from these IPs in a very long time. And I think they are. I think that these, we roll out of bed, Black Adam, cameo with Superman. Okay, a few days later, we're getting him, verifying that he's going to be Superman for a while in his own words. And that's broadcast on not just his site, it's broadcast on WBD, it's broadcast on Warner Brothers Pictures and DC Comics. I heard somebody say that it was a negotiating tactic. If that was a negotiating tactic, it was the worst one of all time because the people you were negotiating with were on your side. So, and then we roll out of bed the next day or next couple of days after that, and we have brand new. We have a Warner Brothers or DC Studios, which we did not have the night before, and we have 2 new DC Studio heads that we did not have before. So all of these things are happening in succession because they were planned. They were happening. They were already happening beneath the waves. We don't know about it because, like I said, we're on the outside pressed with our face pressed up against the window, wondering what kind of news we can get. But these guys are moving really, really quick, and I think you're going to get some major announcements coming up soon. So I would support them too if you went on to something else. But right now, it needs to be Superman. Wait till you get fat and old to start playing some other British character or American character. But right now, it needs to be Superman. It's time. All right. Okay, Chappie. Why I don't think the director snacked right. Can't talk to the allergies. Zack Snyder will direct Man of Steel 2, but I do think it's possible that he will be. Yeah, I think that's possible too. I actually think it's possible that he might even be a screenwriter or something. And he will definitely be an executive producer because he cast that version of the character. And whenever you cast a version of a character that goes on, you are the executive producer. If you notice a lot of the films that came out after Zack Snyder was gone, he's still executive producer because he cast the characters that they continue to use. As far as Zack Snyder directing it, if he did, great. If he doesn't, and here's the thing about one of the things I thought was misleading these last couple of days when Henry Cavill's been talking about playing a joyful Superman. People don't. If you think that that's where the character was not going with Zack Snyder, I don't think you were paying attention. Where he starts in Man of Steel and where he evolves through Batman versus Superman in either version of Justice League, he was on a pathway to become that Superman that has found himself, realizes his worth, realizes how he's seen, and goes on with a more hopeful outlook after that. That's where they were going. So I think when people heard him say that, they look at, oh, he's always played a pouting Superman. No, he wasn't. Man of Steel was the only one where you could even make that claim, and that was simply because he's finding out who the hell he is. He's finding out that he's not, what he thought he was. He's growing into a man, a superhuman, the only one on the planet right now, and then he's coming to grips with fighting his own people and then killing the last of his species besides himself. There's a lot he's handling in that movie. But if you look at Batman versus Superman, he's much more grounded, much more happier. Hell, he's jumping in the tub with Lois, about to do Lord knows what if they hadn't gotten interrupted. He's cracking jokes. And then when you see him in either version of Justice League, whether the crappy one or the legit one, he is moving forward. He is at the end of that story arc where he will now become the person that knows what he means to planet Earth and everybody else. So when I hear him say that, I am seeing him saying I'm reflecting, on where the character has gone through and him being ready to play where it would have been at. So if that happens under a natural progression, I'm okay with that. Now, here's where I will be pissed off. If we have too many people, in my opinion, that want the current version of any superhero character to be the finished product of the one that they grew up with. They want a happy, glowing cartwheel Superman right out of the chute. And that was always going to be a problem with any modern era Superman. You cannot make a cartoonish Superman and stick him in our real life. Even though it is superhero, even though it is fantasy, even though it is science fiction, it only works because it's juxtaposed on our real lives. So yeah, the hopeful version that Christopher Reeve was great for me when I was 6, when I was a child, but I'm not 6 and I'm not a child anymore. All right. And if you want these stories to have any type of weight, you have to let the storyteller tell his story, his or her story, and take that character on a journey that they can wrap their hands around. So Man of Steel coming out in 2013, you had a lot of people who couldn't get Christopher Reeve out of their head. All right, and that's not Zack Snyder's fault. That is not Henry Cavill's fault. That's not David Goyer's fault. All right, you cannot expect any modern director to take a character like that and adopt someone else's version. All right, Zack Snyder is not Donner, and Zack Snyder in 2013 is not Richard Donner in 1970, 1980. So to try to force a Super Friends type version of Superman onto the modern era would have been a mistake. All right. The hopeful, cheery Superman that a lot of you guys saw was the end result of someone else's Superman, someone else's story. Only thing I ever ask fans to do is let the storyteller tell his story. We're the audience. All right. If we knew how to jump ahead of the storyteller, we would be telling those stories. But you have accomplished directors, accomplished screenwriters. Some of them are Academy Award winners that know how to build a character, that know how to take us on a ride. All right. And the last thing that they need is somebody else trying to shoehorn their childhood superhero into the one that the current storyteller is trying to say. That's what ruins movies. That's what ruins the audience experience, and that's what ruins fandom, in my opinion. So yeah, thank you for the input, Chappie. Derek Taylor, Frank Miller was a guest. Did not get to meet him. Oh, okay. Nah, I can even get to meet Frank. Come on, gotta wait in that line. Or was it just, did he just leave before he had a chance to see you? But yeah, let me know why. I got a chance to meet Frank. I got some stuff autographed from him from quite a while. All right, three. I will also continue watching Witcher because the series and the story. Yeah, the story is strong, which I know some people had some complaints about the second season, but it's got a strong following. I mean, it's not Stranger Things following, but it's big. And like I said, Liam Hemsworth is not Urkel. He's a beefcake too. People will gravitate to him. Just give him a chance. All right, it was a big. It has to be big for Cavill to step away from The Witcher. He campaigned hard to get that role in the first place. A much shinier Penny must have. Yeah, and Penny, I think there's money. I think there's some money involved. I think there's some stability involved here. When you're telling somebody, hey, we don't want you to do other things, we want you to do this solely, you got to take care of it. So, I'm really hoping that that Warner Brothers Discovery take care of him. Exactly. If you toss a coin near Witcher, he would flip your studio instead. That's hilarious. All right, three Stella. Okay, so yeah, you're talking Stella. Anthony Beltray. Ex-Witcher writer Bo DeMoya says many people working on the show are actively disliked books and games, so Henry leaving is good. And Bo and DeMaio, I don't know. Bo DeMaio was fighting with Henry to make the show right. My opinion on this is going to be a pretty much broad opinion. All right, so the people who are making the show really don't need to like the games. It may help if they're a fan of it and they may make them a little bit passionate for it. But once again, the people that are working on what's going on the screen are creating a product for the screen. I don't expect them to have, to be, caged up by that. I mean, because the majority of the people who watch it that they have to appeal to, they have a different job appealing to the masses than the people who do the games are appealing to the games. We're not watching a game. We're watching a production. We're watching a movie. So it's a different animal, and that goes for whenever you're going to adapt anything, whether it be a comic book movie, whether it be a video game, anything. The ultimate goal is to make a movie. If you want the game, play the game. But if you're trying to make a production, an adaptation, remember where you're making it for. So the fact that they didn't have to like the game. They could have hated the game, as long as they did their job, and they did it pretty much successfully. I mean, like I said, you have to understand where the majority of your audience is coming from, and you would be surprised that the majority of the people that are watching The Witcher are watching because of Henry Cavill, and watching it because it got recommended to them. The hardcore people that are watching the games would not be sustainable as far as being able to keep the show's ratings and support online and everything else. You know what? If it were casting, Sheldon from Big Bang Theory as your draw, then it's gonna be a problem. Cavill brought the bulk of the people to that, and it went from there. But whenever you're making an adaptation, whether it be a game or a comic, understand that the priority is the movie. The priority is the show, because not everything translates from a video game or a comic book 100% to what the show is. You see what I'm saying? I mean, so I think Bo DeMaio is going to realize, that like I said, he'll realize that coming soon. I wish that the reality of that they're going to drop as far as appeal goes, but the majority of the people are going to probably leave with Cavill, and they weren't really, the game wasn't high on their list as far as their story goes, and nobody I knew that we did some streaming of it here as a group watch. I had one person that played the game and did the books. One person out of the 29 people I had here. So not saying that people don't know the game, but you got to understand where your audience is when you're making this content. All right, Larry. All right. What's up, everyone? I'm doing all right. I'm fighting allergies, but I'm trying to do my best. Honestly, think Cavill back. I honestly think with Cavill back, the SnyderVerse is live and fully restored when Zack is back. All right. So here's the thing about that is the SnyderVerse is the characters he cast, which you may be referring to, and I am one of these guys, is the end of the story arc that he started, which I think is something that hangs over any regime's head that wants to move forward. You got to finish that storyline. But the bulk of the DCU characters outside of the Suicide Squad, or some of the Suicide Squad, because even some of those were cast. Amanda Waller was casted by him. Harley Quinn casted by him. You know, Flash, Aquaman, Superman, Wonder Woman. You know, depending on what Green Lantern they're going to use. These are all people casted by him. The only thing you're missing from the story, the SnyderVerse, really is the end of that arc, because there was no guarantee that Zack was going to do all of these movies. He had a 5-piece story arc, and because that story arc never got finished, people assumed that he was going to do all these movies. And he's a director. His wife's a producer. He's a director. He wants to have hands on, and I don't think, even with James Gunn now, James Gunn being the producer at DC Studios, is going to have to split his time from something he really loves doing on a regular basis to being a studio exec. I just never saw Zack Snyder as being a big studio exec. So I think you were going to be limited in what he was doing, even without the interference. Even without the interference, because these characters were designed to go in their directions of James Wan, of Patty Jenkins, and whoever the director was for the Flash movie. Because remember, all these movies were already being in pre-production before Zack was forced out of the thing. And the script for Aquaman was already done. They were already, well on their way. So the SnyderVerse is still here as far as the characters that were casted. The only thing we're missing was that end of the Dark Side arc. If that ends, then be honest with you, I don't think he was going to direct too many movies, beyond that. And he might have consulted and been an executive producer, but he's still executive producer. Any Superman that comes out with Cavill on it, he's the executive producer. Anything that comes out with the characters that he casted and those versions, he's executive producer. So, as far as being fully restored, I want somebody to explain to me what fully restored means, because I mean it as the conclusion to what was interrupted, because all the characters are already there. And now we know they ain't going anywhere. We also know that there's not going to, for the most part, it doesn't look like there's going to be any reboot. So that means the SnyderVerse really is pretty much the thing now. Now, the only thing we really need to know is what Justice League is canon. I highly doubt that they would use a movie that caused so many problems and is such an embarrassment as the movie that's canon. So it's got to be Zack Snyder's Justice League, simply because that's the one that's higher regarded. And when you hear Zaslav talks, quality is important to him. There was no quality in the 2017 release. So we got to figure out what the SnyderVerse is. All right. Because like I said, right now, if you look at it, it's there. We just need an ending to what he started. I don't think he's going to come back in a long-term capacity. He may come back and do some projects, but I never thought he was going to stay beyond the projects he was doing anyway. So we would eventually ended up in him moving on to other things, because that's what creators do. He's not just a comic book guy. He did zombie movies before. He's done, he wants to do Star Wars type movies, So I think because it got truncated, people fill that void with, that he would come back and make a bunch of movies. I really think he would have been done after he got the universe on its own, and he would have come back sporadically, kind of like he's going to end up doing now. All right. It would be amazing if they announced the director Christopher McQuarrie is to write and direct Man of Steel 2. Christopher McQuarrie is at the top of the name. I think they'll find somebody good, though. Christopher McQuarrie, I don't know how busy he is, because he's wrapping up the stuff with Tom Cruise, but who knows? By the way, it's not officially Man of Steel 2, by the way. I actually don't think it's going to be called Man of Steel 2. I actually think they're going to come up with something. As I explained last time, sequels generally don't keep, if they have a core title like Superman or Spider-Man or Batman or things else, the original title, like you didn't have Batman Begins 2. It was the Dark Knight. So you're most likely going. I know what you guys are meaning, but I think we should embrace it's going to be probably either Superman, Man of Tomorrow, or they'll come up with something. I think it's just going to be straight up Superman because that's a statement title. All right, so that's just me. But like I said, everything I say here, take it with a grain of salt. Restored. It's getting there. But once again, in order for people not to get angry and revolt, I need people to understand. I need to know what they think restored is. What do you mean by restored? Because the conversation is different one way or another. If you're saying restored to where Zack comes back and he directs everything in DC, that was never going to be the case. That was never going to be the case. So if you say restored, you have a leadership group involved now that is embracing the people that he cast and that are going forth. You know, with one of those executives that has worked with him before and that they're friends with each other. So it's there for you, you know, to have. It just means what do you guys mean by restored? I mean, when I hear it, I say the conclusion of the storyline and the continuation of these characters in their own way, which is, you know, I have everything but that one last thing, and that's the conclusion of the Dark Side arc. If he comes over and says, "This is what I was going to do. Here's my new treatment for it. Here you go, James. Find a director. I'll write you a screenplay, something like that. I may not have time to direct it or be directly involved, but this is what we were going with it. What do you think?" And then they take it somewhere. There's only so many ways you can go with it, though. You know, I mean, and once again, once they decide which universe is canon, that might be part of the restoration because if you use the Joss's version, I don't know why you do that. Why would you cancel something like Batgirl because your statement was we don't want anything that is doesn't meet a certain quality, and then use a film that's probably one of the worst comic book movies once it's all said and done, as far as how everything that went on with it, how it's chopped up, how the story was diced up. If you take everything into account of the 27 release, it's not something that is looked on fondly. Why would you start with that? So first of all, I got to see where they're starting from. What is canon? Is Zack Snyder's Justice League canon? If so, now we're talking because within that story arc, if they continue from them, you will eventually end up down the line that Zack led you down, whether he's there or not. So still gotta wait. Still gotta wait. But if it's gonna happen, it's a better shot now. All right. So Henry knows how to balance what he's. All right, the low resumerization, yeah, they did. They wasted 5 years of a man who's now 39 years old. How you doing, Vince? Yeah, it's just like I said, these characters have a logical path that he set them on that I think that they're going to continue on that no matter what. Once again, though, once you get into the details, for me, it is are you going to conclude the story? Which one is canon? If it's Zack Snyder's Justice League, then that answers a lot of questions because you now have those storylines out there that anybody can come back to and say, you know what, this is the path that he laid out. We would love for him to be on board, but the path is already there. The people are already there. You know, so that's my question. Okay, so he was cast. So yeah, so he's taken up. You know, like I said, give Liam a chance to be a milf magnet. How you doing, Hunter? Do you think we down road we get a super son? I hope not. I'm sorry. That's going to be an unpopular position. I hope not. I think that it worked with Batman's character because the type of character that Damian Wayne is, as far as his son goes, works because of the nature of the kid, him being Ra's al Ghul's grandson, him being trained by the League of Assassins, and him being brought into Batman's world. The storyline around that, I've always hated Jonathan Kent. I'm sorry. I've always hated the concept of Jonathan Kent, and I think it just Superman's one of those characters that really needs to focus on Superman, and I that book's got canceled now. I don't think so. I don't think they will. And if it is, it's going to be like decades down the road. I don't think you're going to see a Son of Superman in any modern Superman film. You know, TV wise, they're already doing it. I don't think they'll tread that road. I could be wrong, But I think right now, I think they want to really focus on Superman himself and in rebuilding the core character or continuing the core character that we know of with the guy who's in his prime. Lois, the closest thing to him is Lois, but there's no kids, there's no attachment right now. But who knows? I highly doubt that they would do that. TV wise, it's okay, but as far as the movie goes, I don't think they'll ever do that. Let's see. Yeah, Cavill knows the lore better than the showrunners, but it's the showrunner's job to run the show. See what I mean? It's great for Cavill to have an opinion about The Witcher, but Cavill's is I mean, he's an actor. He's not a screenwriter. He's not a screenwriter adapter. He you know he's his not that's really not his role. So he could know the source material. I could know the source material of any comic book that's currently on my shelf right now. I could know it front to back. I could tell you everything about Daredevil, right? But I'm not a screenwriter. I'm not a director. I'm not a producer. I'm not an editor. My opinion can only go so far, and it's not very far because I do not have the tools to turn that piece of paper and those 32 pages into something that an audience is going to see. That is not my expertise. That's not my job. And I see a lot of people trying to do it sometimes. And if you look at the failure movies, a lot of the failed movies out there, it's when other people got involved in it that were great at one thing. Just because somebody's a great actor doesn't make them a great editor, doesn't make them a great director, doesn't make them a great producer. All right. As great as some of the best actors in the world are. And that goes for directors too. Not every director can produce and edit. Ridley Scott is my favorite director of all time, alongside Michael Mann. All right. Ridley Scott's, all the director's cuts of Ridley Scott stuff is stuff that should have been left out. All right. He paints with a broad brush, but when you're trying to take that to an audience, it needs to be edited. Some things need to be cut. Some things need to be, the director is caught up in his vision, whereas the people producing and paying for the movie are caught up in the audience. So somewhere they have to meet. So, yeah, him knowing it, that's great. I'm glad that Henry Cavill knows that story. But it's the part of taking that source material and taking it to a broad audience is not necessarily within his scope. All due credit to Henry Cavill. I love the guy, but he's not any of the roles that would make that a success other than just his presence. All right, Ryan. I feel bad for the Witcher fans, but it takes having him become a full-time Superman so bad. Yeah, I feel bad because, like I said, I know how we felt when he was taken from us, or when he wasn't propelled in a role. Okay, here's the thing about the Witcher fans though. Had Warner Brothers previous done him right, he wouldn't have been available for Witcher. So there's that. But I understand what they're going through. I understand their anger because we've been dealing with the anger for quite a while now. Why do you think a post-credit scene was such a big deal in the middle of a secondary B-tier character? Because we've been kept from him, for that long. The people who loved Cavill were not being listened to for 5 years. So when we finally got our moment, I feel bad that it's at the expense of another fandom, but I mean, we understand. I mean, we suffered with you. We suffered longer. So sorry. All right. He chose Superman over The Witcher, which is the same thing I would have done. I trust him creativity as a fellow fan. I trust creativity as far as making the right decisions for his own career. Like I said, I trust no actor creatively when it comes to making a movie or making a movie or making a show for the part. Not because I don't like those actors and think they're idiots, but like I said, when my plumbing gets messed up, I call a plumber because I don't know what the hell I'm doing. All right. When my cable gets jacked up, I don't screw up anything. When my TV or my computer gets up and I got a warranty, I take it to the people who know what the hell they're doing. I know how to use that computer, but I don't know how to fix that computer necessarily. Everybody has their role in what they are good at doing. And I think creativity. Now, should he get input? Of course. I'm not saying that at all. But I think the final decision maker when it comes to how this thing needs to work and the mechanics of this thing needs to work has to be left up to the showrunner. I mean, he should have input. He should have input on the Superman as well. But James Gunn or whoever he appoints as director has to be the final word. Unless Henry Cavill wants to start being, that level. And then he's going to have to ride shotgun with another movie maker to get that, because that's just not where he is right now. So that's just me. Hey, Al Jordan, how you doing? Yes, please like and subscribe. Also, at the pin to the top of the chat is like and subscribe Poindexter Lounge. But also my URL for my YouTube page, which are slowly de-ghettoifying, is pinned to the top of the chat. So join that. Sometimes we simulcast, but a lot of times what I'm working on right now. I'm recording content and all that is short 5 to 10 minute things that, like I said before, they're going to be like as seen on TV, the TV things. So I have a section in the store that is called the as seen on TV section. And what I do is, because the majority of the people that walk into the store are tourists, and the majority of them know everything about these comic book characters from what they've seen on a TV screen or a movie screen. Now, I, as someone who has a comic book section over in that corner, want to make the connection between the visual IP that they've been introduced to and the paper IP that allowed that to even exist in the first place. And I think if we can make that connection as dealers, I think we can augment their experience at the same time we're inviting them into our brotherhood. So I have YouTube shorts that are going to be called As Seen on TV, and they're going to cover things like Watchmen. They're going to cover things like Daredevil, Sandman, things like that. And they're basically going to be the point of view as to, you like this character here, let me give you some branches, some olive branches here, so you can take this with you, because the shows aren't going to last forever. Some of these shows only get one season. Some of these shows only get specials. I have people coming in that are interested in Man Thing and Werewolf by Night. That's a one-time special, even though they will see these characters down the line. But I got plenty of Werewolf by Night stuff. I got trade paperbacks, and I can put it in their hands. And that's what I want to do. I want to do that on YouTube and basically make the connection between what they're seeing on the screen and making them a collector, our brotherhood. So like and subscribe to and share my channel as well. And that's the kind of content that you'll see. You'll rarely see me doing full-on live streams, like that much. We did some last week, but I'm trying to keep the full 2 and 3 hour live streams on Enosh's channel. But thank you, Hal Jordan, for pointing that out. Film Goblin Witcher season 2 wasn't that good. Yeah, a lot of people said that. You're not alone in that. Yeah. There's not enough Henry Cavill to go around for Geralt and Seuss at the same time. Yep. And like I said, I'm sorry. As much as you guys like The Witcher, Superman is Superman. It's what it is. All right, Cavill has another movie with Guy Ritchie announced today. Also, is that for Universal? Or is that for Warner Brothers? I know that happened. I have to look at that. All right, looking forward to Henry's Guy Ritchie project. In case you just brought that up. Agreed. How you doing, Jacob? Thanks for joining us. Jacob McKenzie, William. If the DCEU does more than just Justice League I need some damn Benadryl. If the DCEU, by the way, it's DCU now, apparently officially. If the DCEU does more with the Justice League, what would you want to see Hall of Justice or the Watchtower as the Justice League's headquarters? I would rather see I would rather see Hall of Justice right now, simply because the version of Justice League that I hold canon, you actually see in one of those scenes, you actually see the destroyed Hall of Justice. So it being Hall of Justice in any further movies would be consistent with what I saw. If you look at that one picture of Zack Snyder's Justice League where Superman is flying over and Kilowog's dead body is there, you could actually see the top of the destroyed top of Hall of Justice. So, but down the line, I would love to see both. I mean, they could have the tower. Remember, they evolved from the tower as well. So either one would be cool, but the Hall of Justice would be symbolic simply because it was in the original movie, or what I consider to be the original movie. All right, I read somewhere that David Yates is on the short list of Superman's. It's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be interesting to see who they get. Chappie, while it does suck that Henry Cavill is no longer playing The Witcher in season 4, I will honestly take him back as Superman instead of Liam. Yeah, I mean, it's a once in a lifetime character. I mean, Superman is Superman. You got to count on your hands how many people have played Superman on the big screen and on the small screen. Let's see if I can name them. I'm going to forget some I know. But we had George Reeves. We had Christopher Reeve. We had the dude from Lois and Clark. Dean, what's his face? We had Superboy. Dean Cain. We had the one who played Superboy. We have the one that's played now. So really, you have like seven people total that have, I think, played Superman. Superman has been around over 8 decades. So and television and movies have been around most of that. First time you see Superman is back in the 50s. And before that, you had the Fleischer films, which that weren't live action, but you had Superman on screen then in the movies. So you've only had a handful of people, just over a handful of people, ever play that, and Henry Cavill is one of those people. No other role is going to compare to that. No other role in comics is going to compare to that. You might find other characters intriguing and more exciting, but they're not going to have the historical presence and historical relevance as the first costume superhero. And that is Superman. So to me, there's not a lot of roles that I would expect him to choose over that, if any at all. So, all right. So let's see. All right. Today I went to the Batman Experience at the Spy Museum in New York City, and it was pretty awesome. Go see the Lambo Bell drove in Dark Knight Returns or Dark Knight Rises. I'm sorry. If I make it to New York City, I will. Exactly. These so-called Superman fans who claim Snyder doesn't understand the character and isn't a good storyteller didn't pay attention to any of the movies. No, and they didn't. They didn't. They came, like I said, they came into it with the Superman that they wanted to see. They came into someone else's story, clutching with a death grip their story that they could not let go of enough to give this one a chance. No matter what somebody does with the Man of Steel, Superman, Batman, any of these characters that have been around decades and generational characters, nothing is going to touch yours. All right. If it turned out that I did not like Cavill's character, then guess what? I will always have Superman films to revert to, or some type of media. Same thing with any character. The Crow. All right. When they do this Crow movie, I'm going to give it a chance. But if I don't like it, I will always have Brandon Lee's The Crow. Nothing will ever touch that. So when they reiterate when they redo these superheroes, let the storyteller give you the version that he has in his head instead of you trying to force, the one in your head, and you're not the writer. All right. It's not your story. And you can just not watch it, but at the same time, what does that make you? You know what? We're gonna live in 1980 for the rest of our lives, as far as the way these superheroes are. And granted, Superman in 1980 has a soft spot in my heart. I mean, I went in Man's Chinese. One of the only two times I went to Man's Chinese Theater, and I grew up in LA. The Empire Strikes Back and Superman 2, which I think is one of the greatest superhero movies ever made. But it doesn't age. It doesn't hold up. I can't take the mentality of where the world was in 1980 and try to tell a 2013 or 2022 story. It doesn't work. That's what makes it cartoonish. But these people just they don't have any room in their skull for anything else than what they grew up with. And if you have the wrong executives and the wrong suits in place, those people will listen to those guys. And that's what happened with Cavill and Superman. The previous regimes listened to the wrong people. All right. Fuck the people who enjoyed it and paid for it and made it the money it made. And that and the $1 billion standard is what took 5 years of Superman from us. So we got a lot of making up to do. So I'm so happy this last week happened. All right, people just wanted Christopher Reeve. Yeah, and like I said, I love Christopher Reeve's Superman. When I was a child in 1980, like I've said before, I don't have a TARDIS here. I live in 2022, damn near 2023. All right, I need a Superman that fits the era that we live in now. Otherwise, he's going to get laughed at. The hardcore people who are clutching on to Christopher Reeve's, Superman with a death grip are going to be the only people that go see that movie. Because guess what? They tried that mess in Superman Returns. All right, they ruined what could have been a great performance by Brandon Routh by making a nostalgia-based movie to try to reach back to those fans from 35 years ago. All right, or 25 years ago. And what happened? A lot of people went. A lot of them went to go see it, but it didn't make more money than Henry Cavill Superman. And if they were chasing that $1 billion standard, they fell well short of that. All right, so nostalgia works sometimes, but you got to know where to put it. And when you let the storyteller tell a story, you'll probably hear me say that 1,000 times. Let the storyteller tell his or her story. And when you get the credentials to do better, then do better. But right now, we're the consumer, and everybody has a role. The director has a role, and so does the consumer. Let's stay in our roles, you know. Ooh man, that Benadryl's gonna feel good tonight, boy. All right. Jacob McKenzie, Richard Hoyle has confirmed that the Dumbledore series hit early stages of development. Cool. Not the biggest Potter type fan. I mean, much respect to the people who are. I just never got into it. Um, Never read the books and all that stuff, but I know people. I'm 6 and I want. I was 6 when I first saw him, and dude, like I said, it was like seeing a god. You know, it was seeing realize where movie making was back then. Realize where the theater. There was no streaming. There was no internet. You went to the movies and you absorbed that whole. And seeing this guy fly, seeing the embodiment of him, seeing what he was, the majesty of. It was something I'll never forget, and I'll keep that with me for the rest of my days on this spinning blue circle. However, time goes on, things change, stories change. The world is a much different place than it was in 1980. It's just there's just a lot of things that just we need a little bit more meat on the bone. If he's happy and joyful and goofy, why is he that way? You guys may not seem. Some people may not need to know that, but most people who go to movies in general are not going to take a one-dimensional cartoonist Superman. Everybody wants to be like, Bruce Timm's, I think it was. I heard this all week that they should just let the guys who do animation do it. All right, guys, and I know probably a lot of you are going to hate me for this. However many people who watch DC animated, they always think that there's a whole lot more people that watch it. Every time I hear we need to do Batman Beyond, Batman Beyond, Batman Beyond, Batman Beyond. Ugh. All right. Been hearing about Batman Beyond for 20 years now. It's the reason why they're not making it. They may make it now in the future because James Gunn is just he's going to do whatever the hell he wants. He was able to greenlight Peacemaker with a movie that lost money in the Suicide Squad. So they're going to give him carte blanche. So you may get a Batman Beyond. But understand that you are taking a medium that has a microscopic audience in comparison to TV and movie and animation, and the tools that you use to tell an animated story and the audience that you're aiming toward is not the cinematic audience. So whenever I hear people say, well, they did it in the cartoons, they did it. No, that's not even true for the comics, because the audience that you're crafting that story for is not a cartoon audience. It's not a comic book audience for the most part. Like I just said, the majority of people who are going to see these movies and watch these shows will never pick up a comic unless I put one in their hands, or unless a dealer puts one in their hands. And with animation, like I said, there's a reason. It's no accident why major companies, not just Warner Brothers, cut animation. It doesn't draw. I know people grew up with it, they love it. It doesn't draw. And everybody who watches animation thinks that everybody else is watching animation. There's a reason why you can't find a lot of it on the air. Ask the Cartoon Network who's watching it. And if nobody's watching it, they can't get sponsorship dollars. And without sponsorship dollars, there's no reason for you to be on TV. So whenever I hear people saying they should just write the movies like they did the animation, I just want to pull my eyes out and throw them at them. A cartoon is a cartoon. A motion picture is a motion picture. They are not the same. The audiences are different. The motion picture audience is actually a much larger audience. If you ever look at the numbers, and we get a chance to look at the numbers, if you own a business and you buy ad space, and what they do is they give you a whole schedule, a block of time of what's on. And dirt cheap is when cartoons are being aired. That includes for a store that was selling comic books. It just doesn't draw. All right, it just doesn't draw, and the story structure is just not suitable for motion pictures. Even if some of them are motion pictures, a lot of the stuff that you're seeing Warner Brothers get rid of is stuff that people just made, but there was no business reason to make it. It's cool, it's artsy, but the audience size is so small that there's no financial leverage there. You know, you see Aquaman, you see Justice League, you see Batman, you see movies on TNT, TBS. You don't see primetime cartoons or anything. They're just not, like I said. I heard somebody say that earlier this week, and it just drove me crazy. I'm glad you guys like some of these cartoons. They are not motion pictures, and they should not be adapted as such. That's just me. I know I'm probably gonna get a lot of hate for that, but that's okay. People had the same exact response as the Batman 2. He's not totally Batman. Hell yeah, yeah. Like I said, it's they don't want to let they have that fixated version of the character in their head, and that's the one that they will sink to the bottom of the ocean with. People want an MCU formula for DC movies. Yeah, and that's always been the biggest pain in my ass. And I think it's the DC executives that are now all gone. They wanted that too. And what The Rock said was so perfect. I don't want a bite out of Marvel's apple. I want a DC apple from its inception. And I don't care what any Cro-Magnon wants to say as far as, well, Marvel set the standard. They had to do that. No, they fucking didn't. They did not have to do that. Warner Brothers is a multi-billion-dollar company, no matter who owned it. All right. Marvel was damn near bankrupt at the end of the 90s and early 2000s. That's why Spider-Man went to Sony. That's why X-Men and all these other ones went to Fox. Marvel went broke. All right. They were on the verge of bankruptcy, and they sold those IPs off, and that's how they did it. DC Comics has never ever been in that position. All right. They have never had to sell their IPs to save their company from going bankrupt. So they have always had control of their own companies from beginning. They have the oldest superheroes around. They created the superhero team. They created the superhero. You don't have to follow anybody's playbook. You know what? Take your lumps by taking your own road, because that road is going to be stable. That Frankenstein that these guys tried to build with by chasing somebody else's $1 billion machine and using someone else's formula, that a reason alone is why they needed to be dismissed. All right. I always said, even on Enosh's show, if I'm interviewing you to run DC films, you better run DC films. If you want to make Marvel type content, I will end this interview, and you can go down the studio there, down the street, and you can go work for them. But I need you to come in and have an appreciation for the legacy that is DC Comics first, and then understand where these characters were placed in the hearts that these characters have in several generations. And understand, no matter what you pick, it's going to be divisive. So if you can't deal with divisive, you know what? Go play with the little kids, because we're now talking your grown man's game. All right. If you can't deal with criticism and certain box office numbers, and while you were growing, then you need to, you haven't graduated into the adult level yet. But if you can, we'll support you. If you come in and say, we're going to do something totally different, totally drafting, that is true to the core DNA of what attracts people to DC, then those corporate guys like Zazoff will say, I'm going to support you. You know, and if your first movie doesn't make $1 billion just because you have a red S or a bat on it, guess what? I understand that you're building something new, and it is going to take time. They didn't want to do that before. They were driving their car down a high-speed road while they had their necks over on Marvel's car. And you're always going to crash. That was always going to lead to disaster. So what I'm hoping now for this new regime is James Gunn is a DC fan. James Gunn is a fan. Yeah, he worked on Marvel stuff, but he's always said he's a fan of DC. Peter Safran's worked on DC projects before. He's worked on some successful stuff. These guys have a basic understanding, and they seem to have a better connection to the fan than the previous guys did. You know what? And I keep hearing, oh, well, he's the new Kevin Feige. They're the new Kevin Feige. Now we can stop saying that. They're not the new Kevin Feige. All right, they're the first James Gunn and Peter Safran. And it would behoove them, and they're probably way smarter on this road than I am, to focus on creating a DC style. All right, that is Marvel. What Marvel is doing is not your job. They are not paying you, and you got one of the top creators in this industry, and you have one of the most successful producers in the last 15 years. I hope that they have enough confidence within themselves to take on the IPs and do whatever the hell they want to do, and not try to Marvelize the DC characters. That mistake has been made before. All right, so oof, for somebody who's about to lose his voice, I'm sure running my damn mouth a lot. All right, Film Goblin, they got the job. Yeah, yeah, that there you go. End result of that. Ugh. Overseeing one at MCU box office for DCU movies, and you know what? That was stupid, and I will contend to this day. Batman versus Superman made up more money than I thought it was, and it was never going to make $1 billion because, once again, just as we explained before, you have people with their childhood Batman in their head that they weren't ready to let go of, or they had Nolan's Batman in their head they weren't ready to let go of. They had Christopher Reeve's Superman in their head. They just weren't going to let go. They were going to resist anything new. But over time, if you made good, great movies and you didn't get in your creator's way, even those people as I have now, would have come over to you. There's so many people that I run into. Oh, I didn't like that Superman. He was moody and moody, and then sat down and watched Zack Snyder's Justice League and what this is a masterpiece. You have to allow people time to evolve toward what you're building, and you have to allow them space to grow. And once they do, they're growing with you and they're growing alongside you. And that is a solid fan right now. When you bring them on that road from resisting to liking, and you're making these good movies no matter what, they will eventually come towards your way. They will gravitate towards you. But when you're blinking, when you're doing inconsistent stuff, when you're reacting to whiners or people who are never going to see your movies, you're going to crash your plane nose first into the ground. And if they would have done what I just said, as far as taking their time, focusing on creating a universe instead of creating a mountain of money. I know it's a business, but the movies that they made money. They did fine. None of those movies lost money. If they would have focused on a natural progression, they would have gotten their $1 billion movie. All right, they would have gotten their $1 billion movies, and they would have been as solid as they needed to be within themselves, not chasing Marvel's go kart, within themselves. And like I said, that's the past. We're in the future now, and I think I'm hearing all the right things from these new guys. All right, Chappie William, why is it that Man of Steel is hated by some people? Ugh. Sorry if I'm stuttering, stammering, but ugh. Okay. William, why is Man of Steel hated by some people and think it's a terrible movie and it's badly written? Do you think that a lot of it's because of? Yeah, I sort of answered this question before. Like I said, they could not create enough goodwill and space in their head to embrace anything beyond what they've seen. That Superman, for a lot of people, when they see any of these characters, a lot of it they associate with their childhood and they associate it with how they're feeling then, family member, things like that, and that's fine. You don't have to let go of that. That is always how I felt when the old man took us to go see Superman 2, and we had the people who made the movie, and I'm pretty sure that I think I'm so young. I actually believe that I don't know how we got into it, but I think John Williams was there. I think John, because he came out. I remember it was. I'm 48 now. I remember them coming out and the curtains opening, and now I'm announcing the score, and that the score is going to be played on different speakers. And remember, this was before Dolby. That the score was they brought in special speakers so that you could hear that score, and I'll never forget that. And that's always going to have a special place in my heart. But there's enough room in my heart for 48-year-old me to embrace a modern day Superman. I can let go. There's never going to erase the memories that I have of Christopher Reeve's Superman. But I think these people think that it's an attack. They take it personally. Like if I create something new, it's an attack on what is special to them. That's not true. You control what is special to you. You dictate what memories resonate with you. No filmmaker can do that. They can create 1,000 Supermans. That one resonates with you. That's the one that you're going to go with. But you don't have to step on every iteration or every version of that character. You don't have to shit on every version of that character that comes along. And you know what? You don't have to close your mind off if you don't want to a new character, thinking that you're attacking your own childhood. I mean, time goes on. I mean, these players and these characters have a place in time for us that will never move. All right, Brandon Lee's Crow will always be Brandon Lee's Crow to me, no matter who plays the Crow. How I felt in 1994 when I saw that movie, in the theaters, that I would never thought would get made. As somebody who bought the original comic in 1988, never thought I would see a Crow movie because I didn't think it was a big enough name to see that on the screen like that. So it doesn't matter. I mean, your memories are your own, and people think that that these new filmmakers are attacking them or taking something away from them. I mean, they're not. They're building on it. And the worst case scenario is you don't go see it. But with Superman and Man of Steel, not only did they not see it, they attacked it, and that's where I have a problem with. Okay, tell that to Joe. I don't really listen now. You guys, if you watch my streams enough, you know for the most part, I never bring up other streamers, especially ones that are notable like that, because like I said, those guys got hundreds of thousands of followers. So, but yeah, I mean, I will tell it to the people that are watching, the little microscopic amount of people that are watching me now. But like I said, it's those guys are on their own. All right, fun. You can't have a perfect Superman with no flaws in today's time because people won't be. Yeah, they will not be able to relate to him. See, back in the 1980s and 70s, 70s, 80s, and even the 60s, the heroes, especially when it comes to DC, were godlike characters. So we were cool with that. We were cool with that because it was so fantastical. You have to understand when these characters came about, the world was a lot more innocent, even with the Vietnam War and the Civil Rights era. From the moment that these comic books created, let's go back to 1938 when World War II was happening. While World War II was happening, we were kept away from a lot of stuff. We got our reels and we got our radio stuff like that, but the bloody horror of World War II wasn't fully known to most Americans until afterwards. And the Holocaust, Nuremberg trials, these are things that were brought to us after the fact, and the death tolls and things like that. So we had a black and white, good and evil view of what the world was. You were either a hero or you were a villain. It was that easy. As things started progressing on, and we got into different wars, we got into the Korean War, and then we got into the Civil Rights era and the Vietnam War. It wasn't so black and white. There was gray. All right. It wasn't, there wasn't a clear and definite villain. There was people around you that felt a certain way and thought a certain way. And our superheroes started to reflect that. That's why if you look at the characters that were produced by Marvel Comics prior to the Kennedy assassination and the Civil Rights Movement, they were totally different tone. Prior to that, everything was basically centered around the nuclear threat, radiation, even mutants. Everything that was science fiction, fantasy lore at that time was built on the threat of the Cold War. But even then, good guy, bad guy. We were the good guys, the Russians were the bad guy. That's how we received it. But once we started blurring the good and bad in society, and we started having these conflicts, and with the advent of TV, remember, not every household had TV in the news like they did when Superman was created. By the time Marvel Comics started creating their character, houses had TVs. There was nightly news. Walter Cronkite was everywhere. So now your perception of what a hero is changing because you're now seeing the world around you. It's more accessible to you, and that has gone on through the decades and the decades. So when you get to the internet age, the TikTok age, the Twitter age, and you pretty much know everything about everything, you're not going to buy a one-dimensional cartoon character as your cinematic character. It's just not going to happen. And you're not even going to buy a 1980s version of that character. Some people will. The people who will never let go of Christopher Reeves will. But the numbers bear out that they are not the majority. They are not enough to sustain an audience. So a good studio exec has to know that. The previous ones did not, but a good studio exec has to know where his audience is. And a lot of those guys hate it because it's like I said, it's just, it is what it is. All right, so let's go on to Aztec Algalar for Zack will be back for Justice League films, so someone else directing Man of Steel, a proper sequel is fine, so long as it respects what comes before and they put their own twist to it. But yeah, that's pretty good. Like I said, I will believe Zack Snyder is on one of these projects when he announces it. It could happen. I'm not saying I'm against it happening, but I don't know if it's going to happen, and I personally want to see the vision fulfilled, no matter who does it. If Zack says, "Here's my script, here's what I was going to do, here's what I'm thinking about doing, here you go," you know what? Or if he directs it, right now I want a resolution to the story we started back in 2013 that ran all the way through Zack Snyder's Justice League. I want an end to that because I think it's a healthy thing for the new regime to do because it gives them a basis to launch from. Please don't watch this universe from Justice League. And the reboot makes no sense. If you're going to spend this money, if you're going to sign Cavill to the big contract, if you're going to keep the majority of the main players and add to it, Shazam's universe and Black Adam's universe is added to that, the reboot is pretty much out of the question. So if the reboot is out of the question, why don't we tie this thing to a high quality thing like Zack Snyder's Justice League? You don't have to, refer to it all the time, but people who are going to be new to these movies need a reference point to go back to. Please don't have them go back to the theatrical release. Ugh. Ugh. All right. Oh man. Okay, well, I do like the first two Christopher Reeve Superman movies. I'm sorry they were nowhere near the greatness of the Man of Steel. Superman 1 was sort of cheese. Superman 2 probably isn't as good a movie as Man of Steel. Man, it was cool. As a 6-year-old, Zod. Now I look back at it now, I'm like, oh my god, this movie is cheap as fuck. But my 6-year-old me, when he crushes Zod's hand and tosses him over, murders people. By the way, Superman murdered those Kryptonians. Don't lie to yourself. You think they fell down the Fortress of Solitude and just stayed there? No, they're dead. He killed them all. And he kills them in the comic too. So all this madness, Superman doesn't kill. Yes, he does. He kills them all in several formats. He kills them all in pre-crisis and he kills them all in post-crisis. And in the one of them, while he's killing them, Alana, or the female Kryptonian, was like trying to come on to him, like offering her up sexually for him to spare her. Kills her anyway. Kills her with the green kryptonite. So yeah, he snaps Nolly's neck, and now he's oh my goodness, Superman kills. But if you watch Superman 2, he kills all those fools. Then he goes back to that truck stop and beats the hell out of the dude that beat him up his cart. Uses his Kryptonian strength that could kill that guy and sends him through a window. But we're okay with that because we didn't see all of that. We see him snap Zod's neck, but yeah. But Superman 2 is always going to have a place in my heart. Not because it's the better movie, because of the circumstances I saw it. But I got enough room in my brain machine for another Superman, another rotation. I wish people would take that, adopt that same thing. So, all right. So you guys are talking to each other. I guarantee, Chappie, I guarantee you, if Christopher Reeves was still alive today, honestly, he would. Yeah, I think so. The only people that didn't love Man, like I said, a lot of people who didn't love Man of Steel, like I said, everybody has their own preference, but some of the reasons I'm hearing are just ludicrous. If you didn't like it for like legit reasons, but you didn't like it because, like I said, it wasn't your childhood Superman, you're not a child anymore. Neither is the rest of the audience that are watching it, and that includes this guy who absolutely loved Christopher Reeve stuff. I grew up. Daniel Martin, nice to see you. People always try to make the comparison with Superman and Captain America to say you could have that type of character, but MCU Captain America didn't have a previous incarnation looming over it. That's true. They had some really awful ones on TV with the clear plastic shield, but they never had to evolve, and they never had a Captain America, because the Captain America stories that were written during World War II were different, very different. The Captain America stories that were written through Strange Tales and the Tales of Suspense and all that through the Vietnam War were very different than those. And Civil Rights era Captain America, where he's still a symbol of America, but you got to realize the editors and everything else were had their clamps down on what America was and what it was allowed to be, and that's why the stories were kind of conflicted. And then you have the 80s, you have the Cold War, you have all these things. So each Captain America went through those same iterations that Superman did, because Superman came out 3 years before. Captain America came out in 1941. All right, but we didn't have him on the cinematic screen. There was no big budget cinematic Captain America until Chris Evans played him in Captain America Winter Soldier. Not Winter Soldier, Captain America vs. Avenger. So yeah, that's another advantage that Marvel always has, because before there was even anything called, a Marvel universe, even, they had Timely and all that in the 40s, but as far as the Marvel Comics universe that we know now, before that even existed, It was two characters. It was Submariner, and it was Human Torch. There was no Fantastic Four. There was a Fantastic Four X-Men. There was a DC Comics. There was a Justice Society, and there was a Justice League. All these things came long before there was even a DC Comics. So, and when it came into movies and TV shows, DC Comics had Batman. It was cheesy looking, but they had cartoons. They had theatrical cartoons. DC was entertaining people outside of the comic books decades before Marvel even started doing it in that manner. So, so yeah. But like I said, because of that, we have people who are from different eras that have seen these different iterations, and they can't let go of those in order to embrace a new one, and that's unfortunate. Marvel will go through that too. Wait till they recast Logan. Oof. All right, Film Goblin. I always trusted Snyder with DC after seeing his Dawn of the Dead, 300, and Watchmen, and even Sucker Punch. The guy isn't perfect, but he sure damn knows how to make. Yeah, and I think that goes for Snyder across the board. Like, I saw Army of the Dead. Listen, I am tired of zombie movies, and this is coming from a horror fan, a hardcore horror fan like myself, who who grew up with Night of the Living Dead, grew up with just about every zombie movie you can imagine. But by the time Army of the Dead came out, I'm like, oh, geez, another zombie movie. I enjoyed it, and we even promoted it. See, we got patches and stuff. These are patches, like Iron On patches, and we got posters and stuff. I forgot I had these until they were talking about it the other day. It says Los Angeles because it took place here in Vegas, or allegedly here in Vegas. But when we promoted these movies, we got a bunch of these. So I think Zack Snyder's a great storyteller, and he's a great visionary. I love the way he makes things look and feel. From 300, Watchmen is my favorite Zack Snyder movie overall. So I mean, this is before you get into the mainline DC characters. I think he's a great visionary. I cannot wait to see Rebel Moon. Now, would I rather see him make a comic book movie over Rebel Moon? Yeah, I'm going to be selfish. I'm a comic book geek, but I'm also a sci-fi nerd. I will watch Rebel Moon because I think he's going to do a great job with that, and I think that is a very once in a lifetime project that it's not going to be looked upon as a Star Wars clone once it's out. Because remember, Star Wars started out as a Flash Gordon script, and it was heavily influenced by Kurosawa. So if you do the history on that, even the original Star Wars that everybody knows and loves was based and influenced and inspired by different things. So I can't wait for Rebel Moon. All right, general audience, we are really not aware of the other live action Captain America movies. Superman's the movie is a yeah, it was big, dude. It was I was there. It was big. I mean, I remember the advertising and the commercials about it were just like bonkers during that time. So all right, not sure because I've never played either. According to a lot of people who are hardcore into it, it takes its liberties from time to time, and that's where a lot of the conflict goes. But once again, different type of story. All right, my brother took me to the con, had to work, so we got there around 5, and he still had to get. That's cool. It's glad to see people going out to cons again, man. For 2 years, we could do anything. The games are set after the books. Okay, so that's somebody answered that question. Thank you, Jade. Aaron Pritchard, how you doing? I'm really sad about Henry leaving The Witcher. Yeah, I understand. I understand. Like I said, we've been there. Okay. All right. Yeah, this little segment that he did. I think they'll work together again. I definitely think they work. And a lot. Listen, these people don't hate each other. Even if some of us hate them, like certain directors and certain producers and certain studio heads, these people don't hate each other. They golf with each other. They eat dinner together. They work on projects together. Well, Walter Amato will still golf with these people. Toby Emmerich will still get on the phone with some of these people. It's a business. It's a small world. There's only a handful of these guys that are working at this level. Us fans may have some issues with it, but once again, we're fans, so we're allowed to. All right, Kiki, it's happening. Whatever. Oh. Okay, I'm assuming you're talking to Kiki Spinker that's in the chat room, but when I read that sentence, Kiki, it's happening, it just sounds weird, like something's happening with his Spinker. I'm like, oh no, definitely. All right. The only reason why I got so much hate was because fans are being stubbornly pissed off that it's. Oh yeah, 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 and it's okay, and that's what I've always told people. It is okay to to embrace something new. Integrity 101. Ray Fisher is probably going to have a cameo in the Flash. I hope so. I hope that situation finds a resolution that everybody can, including mainly Ray, can live with, um, and see him back in the fold. Now that everybody is, that he had issue with is gone. I hope he hasn't become too polarizing for the new management that they say, you know what, we're not going to take a side with this, but there's just a lot of baggage that comes with it. I hope they figure out and be like, you know what, we're going to put you in. But if they didn't, I can understand that fact that, okay, there's a lot with them. But the general audience, to be honest with you, doesn't know about any of that. Just like this whole Flash situation. Everybody thinks that there's going to be people boycotting the Flash, not going to see the Flash. 8 months from now, nobody's going to care about what's going on with Ezra Miller. Nobody. A lot of talking heads on YouTube and Twitter and everybody else will be like, "Oh, they can't do that. That can't happen." Even John Campea, who I love and respect as far as watching his show, has to understand that he calls himself a YouTube nobody, even though he has like 300,000 followers. The general audience isn't John Campea. General audience isn't me. General audience isn't Twitter handle number 20 or Facebook, guy number 2 in chat room, jockey number 3. All right. The general audience, for the most part, they know the internet. They're on the internet. They're on there for their own purposes, but they're not following the TMZ stuff like we are. For most of these guys, it's what they do. It is, but like I said, the average Joe that's going to grab a ticket when we promote the Flash, when it's time to promote the Flash, the majority of people have a vague understanding of what's going on with Ezra Miller, if they care at all. We are a culture that moves on. All right. We had COVID kill nearly 1 million people. We were ready to move on with that while it was still happening. Hell, like I said, there's a war in Ukraine that was on the front page. Remember blue and yellow, everybody, on everybody's timeline and everybody's thing? We moved on from that, even though the war is still going on. All right, murder hornets, um, comets, any whatever news story that is at the top of the headlines, you name it, we've moved on from it. So now we're talking about stories and things that nobody knows about, the majority of people don't care about, and it's not going to stop them from seeing any of these movies. So hopefully that same thing happens with Ray Fisher, and enough of they make a determination that it's not too polarizing because the majority of the general audience wasn't on the inside of that, so he can come back. All right, can't wait for it. Okay, so yeah, it's all right. Looks like we've covered Chabby William. Let's just rewatch the Total Recall remake, director's cut. I still think it's one of the most underappreciated remakes. Uh, I watched it. My opinion on that movie is, if you judge the movie on just what it is, then it's not that bad. I don't think it's bad at all. It's actually, not the greatest, but it's fun. The problem I did have with it, though, is the same. When you make a remake, for me, the biggest obstacle that someone who makes a remake has is not just taking elements of the movie, but taking the atmosphere that the movie was in. I always bring up Red Dawn. Red Dawn is a Cold War movie, and it happened right in the midst of the Cold War in the 80s. You can't, unless you're going to make a period flick, when you do the remake, if you're doing a modernized remake of these things, it's really hard. Now with Total Recall, it's all in feature anyway, so you don't have that problem. But the campiness and cheesiness that was part of the era in 1990 when that movie was made is part of the fabric of that movie. And that the filmmaking style, everything that Verhoeven did was a product of 1990. So when you remake it, a lot of those elements that made it special are not there because we're not in 1990. So it was weird watching it. It's just like watching. There's very few movies I think that can escape that for me. If I saw the remake and I was watching the remake and I experienced the time and atmosphere that was happening, there's very few movies that can escape that for me. And it doesn't make it a bad movie. It's just, for me, you might as well just make something new, because you never be able to capture that era again. But you know what? Buddy can at least try. All right, William. This is from Chappie. Whew. Ugh. Nose to start. If I have to take a bunch of sneezes, I'm gonna go up there here. I'll come back. William, I do wonder what you think the director James Gunn and producer Peter Safran were aware that the bad management that was the old regime that was Warner Brothers since now. Oh yeah, everybody knew, and they knew. Trust me. Not only did they knew in far greater detail than us as fans will ever understand. They are in the business. They work with these people. They are friends with these people. They're doing projects with the same people that were getting screwed over by WB. These people are, like I said, work collaborating together. It's a small town when you think about it. Every executive everywhere in every company knew what was going on with Warner Brothers in DC. Every one of them. So yeah, they did, and I think that's why when everybody was saying that when Zaslav had to come in and make some decisions, he's gonna, the creatives are never gonna want to work with Warner Brothers again. They're cutting the heart out of everything and blah blah blah, all that bullshit. And the reason why I said it was bullshit is because the people in the industry knew what Warner Brothers was doing. They knew what Hamat, they knew the reputations, and they knew what was going on to a much far greater degree than we will ever be able to comprehend. They're sitting in dinners and meetings and stuff that we will never be on the inside of. So yeah, they knew, and that's why you see people, James Gunn coming along. You see people like Matt Reeves signing on, and you're going to see other people sign on because the people that are in the industry understood what had gone before and what needed to happen afterwards. So now I think you're going to see the momentum going forward in a much faster way. But yeah, to answer the short answer, yes, they definitely knew what was going on with Warner Brothers' previous management. I mean, like I said, more than we'll ever be able to know and understand. All right. Yeah, like I said, it was a good movie, but it was just weird. Like I said, no, by the way, another Philip K. Dick movie. It was based on a book called We Can Remember It for You Wholesale. Same guy who made Blade Runner made the same guy who wrote the book that inspired Blade Runner wrote the book that inspired Total Recall. Yes, fair enough. Oh, wow. Boy, not one Benadryl, guys. It's gonna be this might be a two Benadryl night because man, I'm dry. And it's just breezy enough out here, just enough breeze to just make everything out. And I'm allergic to everything, by the way. Anybody who's ever gone to the doctors and they stick those needles on your back to find out what you're allergic to, I lit up. I am the most allergic person in the world. I am allergic to I'm allergic to everything but animals. But if it grows out of the ground or floats around in the sky, I'm allergic to it and to a debilitating degree. And like I said, I really wanted to do our show yesterday, but holy cow, I couldn't do it. And my head felt like a 200-pound weight. So I'm suffering now, but I'm driving through. Like I said, this will be our shortest one, but I'm still going to give you a good enough conversation here. Yeah, and a lot of times when you're making an absolute classic, in order to make a remake, you have to like surpass it for people to give it the time of day. And once again, 1986, 1987, when it comes to RoboCop, a lot of what went on in RoboCop was a part of the environment that RoboCop was set in as far as 1987, where we were at. The same type of things that popped in 1980 on the backdrop of 1987 don't necessarily pop in the 2000s and 2010s. It just, some things are just going to be left behind because we're not time travelers. Okay, Chappie, RoboCop remake was fine. Yeah, yeah. It's a lot of that is going to be the same thing. It's just like I said, especially for some of us who were there when these original ones came out, or some of you who weren't a lot, but still you watched them. They're on all kinds of formats right now, so you've all seen these things. So, but the only thing that you can't replicate for those of you guys who weren't born but are watching RoboCop later on is, like I said, the time. When you like we always say, when you're making a movie, you have to make it for the time that you're in order for it to be taken seriously, or you have to be a visionary thinking forward. when it comes to these type of movies, that's the same thing with RoboCops, Conan's, all these type of movies. They had life in the '80s, but you got to look around and see, does it still work now? And some of them do. Top Gun, Maverick works. 35 years later, it works because it's a basic story with jets, stuff getting blown up, and conflict. Those are elements that'll never change. And because it's the military evolves. And it was a movie right in the heart of the Cold War, but it wasn't about the Cold War. It was about Maverick. It was about him, his issues and everything else. And 35 years later, it's still about Maverick, his issues and his piloting and everything else. So that's why they were able to make that sequel so well, and that's why that movie did so well. I was happy for Tom Cruise to first get his first billion dollar movie. William, get a Neffy pot. Wash the pollen crap out of your nasal cavity. It feels weird. Yeah, I tried. My mom got me those, man. I thought I was gonna drown, man. I thought I was gonna drown. No shit. I thought I was gonna. And that, oh man, I like a baby. I mean, I'm a guy who can jump out of a helicopter into freezing water and do all kinds of crazy stuff. But man, um, if we're talking about, I think, one of those ones. The one I did, the one where the water it flushes out and comes out the other end. I think we're talking about two different things. That thing, I was like, holy shit, I'm gonna die right here now. It's a thing that it comes in and it breathes the water through you and it comes out the and it bleeds washes it out. I was like, this is water torture. This is something out of a bad science fiction movie. And like I said, I legit with this much water going through my nasals, I thought I was gonna die. So, but I'll try the Neffy pot. I think yeah, there you go. It helps your immune system. Yeah, I'm gonna try everything, dude. Like I said, right now it's just Benadryl. All right, Black Star. Do you think Henry is making a mistake by quitting the Watcher? The Witcher. I know what you mean. I think it may affect his career because no, no, no. Because the difference between Catherine Heigl, she wasn't the reason why she was leaving. Henry Cavill's leaving to be Superman. No further explanation needed. Henry Cavill is leaving for a dream role that he had before, that he's still young enough and relevant to play. Nobody's going to look sadly upon him on that. Nobody's going to look negatively. It's Superman. Now, if he were leaving him in the lurch, and they had Netflix had the choice of whether they wanted to continue it after him. They renewed the show even after they knew he was leaving. But if he was leaving to play like some bum or some no-name character, then yeah, people might question the decision, even though it would still be up to him. He's leaving to play Superman. There's nobody in Hollywood that's going to be like, don't do it. Hell, if people were working on my project and somebody offered him Superman, I'm like, oh, let me renegotiate so I can at least try to keep him on my project. But given the breadth of products, I think, and this is what gets me excited about the announcements that are going to be happening, is that the fact that he had to leave The Witcher to make room for what's going on told me it's not just going to be, little itty bitty project. We're talking big stuff. I cannot wait to hear these things get announced. So no, I think the treatment in Hollywood that Heigl got was for different reasons, but the treatment that he would, like I said, I have the utmost respect for you guys who love The Witcher. All right. I could walk out on this street right now on Las Vegas Boulevard. I can hold up a picture of The Witcher. I can hold up a picture of Superman. If not 100% of the people I walk into are going to instantly know Superman, whether they've never seen a Superman movie, whether they've ever picked up a comic book. They're going to know who Superman is, a cultural icon. Like I explained before, only a handful of people have ever played him. Nobody's going to look negative on playing that character. They got 3 seasons out of him. If Warner Brothers had done Henry right the first time, they wouldn't have got any. There wouldn't have been a Witcher. So at least not with him playing for it. So no, I don't think at all. All right, Chappie. While I'm not worried about James Gunn for DC Studios, but I am a bit concerned about producer Peter Safran, especially knowing that he doesn't like Snyder, but hopefully he changes his mind. Listen, he wasn't fond of some of the stuff that went on, like in some of the fandom, things like that. But liking somebody is not a prerequisite for doing business. If there's business to be done, business will get done. A lot of these people who say, well, he'll never work with this guy again, or this guy will never work with that guy again, that is horseshit. All right. If there's money to be made or prestige and awards to be gained, the work is going to get done. Like people saying, oh, Jared Leto and James Gunn don't like each other. They're never going to work. Fuck, what are you, crazy? All right, not you, Chappie, but in general, when people say that stupid shit on Twitter and they say it on Facebook and they say it on YouTube and say, this isn't the playground. All right, we're not fighting over a toy and running off with it when we get mad. These are grown ass men that were hundreds of millions of dollars on the line and prestige and careers on the line. They're going to take whatever property that is going to be beneficial for their career and their stability, period, whether they like each other or not. That goes in filmmaking, that goes in sports, that goes in anything. Shaq and Kobe did not like each other when the first three-peat came around. They grew to respect each other afterwards, but they didn't like each other. All right. Reggie Jackson caused problems on two different teams, but guess what? He won 5 different World Series. 3 of them with Oakland, 2 of them with Yankees. Those teams hated each other. All right. Manager couldn't get along with anybody. Liking somebody is not a prerequisite to doing business. If there's business to be done, business will get done. And regardless of how he feels about Snyder, if the situation aligns, he'll do it. There's no not liking anybody to it. He's not inviting him over for Thanksgiving dinner. All right, it's business. Fans can have the luxury of thinking that way. We have the luxury of thinking because we have no skin in the game. Our $10, $15 that we spend on the movie is nowhere near the legacies and multi-million dollars that these guys got on the line. So don't worry about that. When you hear somebody, whenever you hear somebody to say, unless it's an assault situation or something, I mean physical or something egregious, but as far as like not getting along or not liking it, trust me, the overarching circumstance is the business. All right, nobody's gonna fuck up their career and not take an opportunity to be a part of something, or not bring in somebody because of that. Unless he's, like I said, unless it's a Kevin Spacey, I mean something bad. But nah, don't worry about that. I think I don't think you have to worry. Safran is a businessman. He understands business. And if the momentum is to bring in, no matter who it is, whether it's Snyder or anybody else, whether he likes him or not, business will get done. All right. These are grown men and women. All right. And when it doesn't happen that way, like the predecessors, people know what happens when you hold grudges. Grudges are expensive in Hollywood. If you want to see just how bad things were and why I don't think that's going to happen this time around, look at what happened previous. People held grudges. People stuck their foot in the sand, even though the situation around them evolved. You know, not putting Superman on the big screen because you had an issue with demands or something like that or whatever. When you're doing good business, there's no when you want something and you think it's going to bring you the best product, nothing gets in your way. Nothing gets in your way of producing it because you know what happens at the other end. If you don't handle it right, you get what we've had since 2013. If you handle it right, you get what a lot of these guys have had. You know, Academy Awards, $100 billion movies, a handful of $700 or $800 million movies, consistency. So there's no room in that soup for likability as far as like I'm not going to work with that guy. So I hear people say that, and I'm like, yeah, YouTuber sitting behind a keyboard can say stupid shit like that. All right, people who have legacies and money on the line cannot do stupid shit like that. So that's the separation between us and them. And so yeah, when you don't worry about that, man, they'll be fine. Stella, it's neti pot is the one you pour yourself, not the machine that shoots the water up the nostril and out the. Yeah, man. I had a night. You know what? After I used that one, the dressage or whatever it's called, I had a nightmare about using it. I used it once. I'm like, I woke up and I thought I was drowning in the middle. I went, it's yeah. So yeah, I'll try anything. Integrity, it's game over. I love it. Listen, dude. If integrity, you've stuck with this long enough. You've outweighed reality. The reality was not in your favor at the beginning of all this. You've stuck with it. So I can't really knock you for saying the same stuff all the time because you know what? You've been consistent and slowly but surely, you've been saying this since before we had Cavill back, since before we had proper management. You've been saying it all along. So I can't really, dismiss you now because if you stick with something long enough, eventually it'll bear fruit, and integrity is bearing fruit. It's game over, guys. Zack is going to direct more DC rooms starting Cavill as Superman. the narrative that his films were unsuccessful is fake news. Not it was. Man of Steel made $670 million, more than the previous one that they made. Batman versus Superman made $870 million with a truncated movie, and even if they had released it, I mean, the full version of the movies, you're still. I remember Nolan's Batman trilogy was great. They should even be making another Batman. Oh, why are they doing Superman? Nobody will ever replace Christopher Reeve. Why don't we get the cartoon guy? There was a fountain of bullshit in 2013 when those movies were coming out. In 2016 when BVS came out, you couldn't hear any sense, any common sense to all that noise. So, but nobody. The one thing that got ignored was the escalating box office. All right. And my reality, math is undefeated. Math has been winning since before we knew what math was. All right. When something makes 670 million and then your next one out makes 871 million, I don't care what the bullshit fountain says. I don't care what the shitty diaper people who can't let go of their childhood say. I don't care what the fucking critics say. Math is math. All right. Critic scores don't pay for shit. All right. Whiny fanboys that are never going to go see your movie but will whine about it pay for even less. You had box office totals increasing every time out, and you decided to disrupt that. Why were these guys let go when new management took over? That's the answer to that question. That's your Jeopardy answer right there. Math should have always trumped that. And not just math, smart math, not the stupid ass math, not the it didn't make $1 billion. No, all right. I wish I was someone of power when I would have heard that. I wish I would have been over the people who use that as their criteria for pulling the plug or advancing things. All right, I would have fired them, and it would have been ugly. It would have been like, you know what? When you leave my office, just head to the elevator. We'll have the guards take your shit out. All right. And we'll put it on the steps. So, yeah, those movies were successful. And like I said, success is in the eye of the beholder. Now you have a new management group that has looked at what those movies were and has decided to go forward. So, the eye of the beholder, lucky for us now, the beholder is just a little bit more competent than the people who came before them. So just thinking about that nasal thing is clearing me up a little bit. All right, what was he gonna do though? Hey, we want you back as Superman. You think he was gonna say no? If he'd have said no, that would have been some. Ugh. You have to say yes to that. It's Superman. Superman. I mean, it's like if you were, you're working at McDonald's and you're a line cook and you always, you've been studying to be a chef, and somebody from Ruth Chris Steakhouse says, we're going to hire you. You're going to be, you're not going to be the chef, but you're going to be working as a line chef here, full time instead of working at McDonald's and, a couple of, apprentice places here and there. You get to work with me now. You get to work with Ruth Chris, or you get to work with Chef Ramsay, something like that. And you're working at McDonald's. Of course you're going to take the better job. And you might walk out of McDonald's like right there. I mean, you might just have a burger in your hand. You might just throw it at somebody, but hey, I'm out. It's just a bigger opportunity, man. I mean, it's OG, but it's what would be expected, especially if they offered him a good deal. It sounds like everything I'm hearing that he's been stabilized, and we don't have to worry about this stuff. Yeah. So bummer. Yeah. It is. Like I said, like I explained to everybody else, I completely understand where everybody is as far as if you're a fan of The Witcher, you just had your star taken away, and we understand because we have it taken away too. For different reasons, but I understand. I wish there was a way he could do both, but I from what I'm getting the feeling of, the big red ass is going to take up a good portion of his plate. And he's got to do business. Since James Gunn's friends with director Zack Snyder, yeah, like I said, Safran. I think Safran's dislike was over exaggerated. We've never gotten the full content. I've heard it from other people and seen it in some places, but I think a lot of the people It was because there were people that were in the fandom that were just irritating. They're not all of us, but once again, like I always say, when it comes to Zack Snyder's fandom, the plane crashing is always going to get the news. The 99% of the planes that land are not going to land without incident. But it's that one that hits the tarmac, the one that blows up is the one that is like, wow, we got to focus on that. And then that's all the executives at the time heard. Now, granted, the executives at the time were wrong, in the wrong, but they didn't deserve to have threats and all this other dumb stuff. So I think when people have an adverse feeling towards the Snyder, it's because they have an adverse feeling towards those individuals, and that's unfortunate. Because it's like I always say, and I always defend to my grave, the vast majority of us, the overwhelming majority of us, are just people who want to see the films and want to see what they started concluded. You started a really good kick-ass story that I bought in. I went to all the movies, bought all the merchandise. I promoted BVS. I promoted Man of Steel. I promoted the hell out of Justice League, even though you guys sent me stuff with no Superman on it, but stream for another day. I've always been behind you. All I've ever wanted was the end of the story you started. That's it. Right? I don't, and then I was willing to wait. I did the campaigns, I did all that stuff, but I didn't burn down anybody's houses. All I ever wanted to do was give me my money. You guys didn't want to take it. So now we have a regime that does. So I'm happy. We're in a new place now. All right, Marcus Cruz, Integrity 101, Peter Savern, Hayes, Zack Snyder. Once again, business will get done. Love and hatred doesn't pay for shit. All right. If I could hate, how many of you go to work every day? You don't love everybody there, do you? You clock in and out with people who you know are absolute pieces of shit sometimes, and people that you would never share the same oxygen with if you wouldn't have to and you weren't being paid to. Now we do that on a much lower level with hundreds of millions of less dollars and legacies on the line. Trust me when I tell you that regardless of how these people feel about each other, they'll be fine. They will find a way to work with each other, right? We do it every day in our workplaces, all right? And we do just fine. In the military, I shared 50-foot tents with people I could not fucking stand in some cases, all right? And just couldn't, snoring and sloppy and, playing loud music. I grew to, Andrew over there and stuff. But guess what? My mission was to play my part in the United States Army's war effort. That was the mission. All right. The mission took priority over who I hated or not, or who I loved or not. Doesn't matter. Us grown-ups carry out our mission. People who, everybody else has the luxury of being infants, but the grown-ups, don't worry about any of that. All right, Black Star, I hope he will not suffer from Superman curse because sometimes executives cannot see some actors. You know what, though? Hey, listen, take the William Shatner rule. William Shatner did T.J. Hooker. He did all these things because he didn't want to be typecast as Captain Kirk. Finally, he said, damn it, I'm Captain Kirk. How much are you going to pay me to show up at your convention? 60 grand? I'll be there. You're going to pay for my food and my hotel? And you're going to treat me like a god when I show up? I'll be there. All right. There are no TJ Hooker conventions. All right. There are no Priceline conventions. There's Star Trek conventions. So if I don't think the word suffer, I think he would enjoy. Listen, Henry Cavill can go on and do other things. He can go on and yes, he will always be Superman, but I don't think that's all bad. That's good. I mean, he's only one of a handful of people that will ever get to put that S on. All right. Oh, I think he appreciates that. But we've seen enough of Henry Cavill, though, and other things, Mission Impossible, Witcher, to know that he could do something just fine after that. I think if it was back in the 80s and stuff like that, 70s and 80s, he would be typecast and it might be an issue. But in this era where we see so many people do so many different things on so many different mediums, I think he'll be fine. It's Superman. Just the thought of him being back as Superman just sends chills down my spine, though. Chappie, I'm crossing my fingers hoping we can get Amy Adams back as Lois Lane. I don't see an issue there. If they're part of the story, I don't see it, especially with Amy Adams. I mean, I don't see where there would be a problem. Like I said, unless I'm not seeing something, but I think you got a good chance there. Hal Jordan and Gunn Safran will be more focused on product and its viability as they are under the microscope due to the old regime. Yeah, and Zaslav has set a mandate. Before these guys were even announced, trust me, Zaslav asked, probably gave him a list of, can you do this? Zaslav said, here's my priorities. Can you execute these for me? And somewhere along the line, he got a yes. He got enough from both of them to say, you got the job. And I can't wait. I cannot wait to wait. I look forward to waking up and checking my feed now because it's good news. Just from the fact that we know what we have in store. Yes, and subscribe to this channel and to mine. It's mine is pinned to the top of the page. So yes, like me, and like I said, we're growing more and more every day as I get more confident. And I did a lot of work on what will be our new studio. You guys are gonna really love the new studio. Um, but it's an area where we'll be able to do stable stuff. But we're gonna take these cameras and let me kind of show you. Just these regular cameras like this, and we're gonna set them up in different areas so that we can do a segment from our As Seen on TV section, so that we can do a segment from our Star Wars section, or we can do a segment from our comic book section, and we can do a section from the Star Trek section with all the uniforms behind me. Like there's a section in the store that'll have every uniform from the Captain Kirk TOS era all the way up to the Picard's Admirals area in the Star Trek Discovery, and they'll hang in succession in the order, and there'll be models under them. So I will be able to do my stream with that as a backdrop, but I'll be able to talk. So when I do Star Trek content on my channel, I'm going to be in the Star Trek section. When I'm doing hardcore comic books, stuff, I will be literally in the backdrop. If you guys have watched some of our Sci-Fi Center Present stuff, watch the one about Watchmen or Frank Miller. You'll see I'm in my comic book section, and I either have comic books behind me or Funko Pops. So once everything is completely set up, when you go to my channel and you see my 5 and my 10-minute spots, it'll be in those backdrops. And even when we do our live streams, it's going to be in a much better. Right now, I'm doing it at my retail counter, and that's why some of you who watch sometimes you literally see me. Like I've had to hand the show over to Thade while I'm literally selling stuff to somebody because that's where I am right now. So once we get everything set up, it's going to look a lot cooler, and I'm easing my way into this whole YouTube life. So yeah, please like and subscribe. Right now, I don't have a lot of followers because I don't really, until recently, I haven't really been pushing a lot of people to that, because I've been focusing on what I've been doing on Poindexter Lounge and with Enosh. But now, as I feel a little bit more comfortable, I'm starting to come out of my shell and push people, as much as possible to that channel. And I think being on both helps me. And when when that channel goes bonkers, I'll be pushing people to Poindexter Lounge and other people's streams. So yeah, please like, share both the Poindexter Lounge and head over to my channel and subscribe and like and share there too. Thank you very much, Stella. Kiki Spinker, just knowing I get to say that name all the time is great. Let's see, Zach comes back, and if they do it, yeah, if he's coming back, we'll hear about it weeks and months later. Like I said, this stuff that happened now with Lynn and him not getting it, this stuff happened before we knew about it, before it even leaked. It was already done. So yeah, keep your fingers crossed, everybody. Everybody have integrity. Everybody's going to be back. Affleck is back. Cavill's back. Ray Fisher, Snyder, all of them. Let's hope, because then we can complete the vision that they started me on, and I'm cool with it. You will not see me fighting for the fourth 1,000. Your T-shirt will be on the way. I got them in lots that I'm sending. So yes, I got your message. So I will put all your stuff. Everybody, by the way, everybody who got Black Adam stuff for me. I have been feeling like shit lately, so I'm a little bit late on sending out your Black Adam stuff. But if I got your message, your stuff will be there soon. And if you don't get another message from me and you've given me your address and everything, then that means the shipping was such that I don't have to charge you shipping. But if you ordered something like some of you ordered a stack of comic books and stuff to go with it, I may have to get back with you because of the weight. But you're still getting a free comic. We still got tons of posters left, by the way. They really did us. This last minute campaign is, we're promoting Black Adam. Black Adam's in the second weekend. We still got people taking pictures and walking out of here with stuff. So if you if you got your stuff, it will be there soon. Okay, I'll just give Gunn the benefit of the doubt and judge by participation in DC based on the trailer. If new Superman movie looks like Black Adam, I just don't. I won't see it. I don't think you'll have that. Listen, Black Adam wasn't bad, but it's not Superman. And to The Rock's defense, he had to fight an uphill battle every inch of the way. I think we're going to see like a movie or a documentary when it said, "How do we get Superman back?" And we're going to see what The Rock had to fight. It wasn't just getting a yes on Superman. He probably got truncated. This movie, who knows? But a lot of the infrastructure that was in the previous management, if The Rock hands me something and I don't have good editors and good producers and good execs at the company to say, you know what, we want a little bit more out of this, or we need a little bit more of the story. Does this guy need to be here if he's not going to be a major part of the story? Is the kid annoying and all that? If there's no oversight or good oversight that actually cares about the product chiming in, then he's going to give us what he gave us, which was still a fun, good movie. But it could have been so much more better. I will agree with everybody who had issues with Black Adam that it could have been a much, much better movie. But they what did the previous regime demand? He produced the movie and he brought it to them, but they're looking at it and going thumbs up. They're paying for it. All right, they're the ones getting the money together for it. So I could have said, hey, you know what, take the kid out of here and spread the history lesson to somebody else. Sabak, if he's going to be that worthless, let's just get him out of there. Let's just have the Justice League conflict. Let's give you some better dialogue. Oh my goodness, some of the dialogue in the movie is awful. Let's give you some better, let's better this. But that's the Warner Brothers executive management that has to talk to them about that when they're writing the dailies and they're watching the dailies. Because every day when this movie is being produced and done, you're sitting down every day and you're watching what's called dailies and stuff. So the producers, Hamada and all these guys were seeing this stuff. So they had their opportunity to make a much better movie and a much more solid movie. They did not. For the most part, we got what we had. And I can't blame The Rock on it because, like I said, The Rock is not executive corporate level decision maker. They make the movie that they make, and they think they're making a great movie. If no one tells them otherwise, and that's what happens. So I'm thinking that with Gunn and Safran being as experienced as they are with quality, that they will. You won't see another Black Adam like that again. There's a lot of stuff about Black Adam that you will never see again. You'll never see an advertising campaign like that where they had to jam up a lot of stuff at the end, the last week of before the movie gets released to advertise and get different spots. You won't see under this regime how after begging for 6 years to get the one of the most famous superheroes in the world, getting a yes and a month before the damn movie was released. You'll never see that. If you would have had a better regime running the show while Black Adam was getting made, you would have probably had a better movie. All right, you would have probably had a more solid movie. But the shortcomings of where it comes to Black Adam's production and all that are the shortcomings of the previous regime, because you can rest assured that the new regime has higher standards, and they will get more out of The Rock and Seven Buck Productions than the previous regime did. But I'm looking forward to it. So I don't think you'll have to worry about that. Marcus, people should come. Yeah, that's everywhere across the world. That's comic book movies, war, inflation. Everybody should calm down. The only people who benefit from grudges are the heads of studios, and even they don't. Even they don't, because you end up with a shitty product. You end up with what we had the past 7, 8, 9 years. So even they may get bonuses and all that, but look what's happening now. Emmerich is gone. Yeah, he got a soft landing, but it's not. If he had the choice, he would have stayed. Hamad is gone. Ansaroff is gone. And I'm not saying these guys had grudges, but they were stubborn in their stance, and they could not evolve with the situation. So they're gone. Grudges are expensive, but so is lack of evolution. So kudos to. Then how long has Zassoff been in control of the company? Since April, and he did more. He's done more since he's taken over than these guys did in 9 years. To be honest with you, as far as like getting us going. Yep, I will agree. William, what was your experience when you played that Atari at the time? Dude, man, you're taking me back. one of the coolest memories. Like I said, William Powell Sr. is, like I said, my first and foremost hero. I'm William Powell Jr. If I have a son, it will be William Powell III. Whenever the old man came home, it was like, a god was coming home. He was on that stature to me. He still is to this day. But as a 5, 6, I think I was 6 when Atari came out. Whatever he would bring home was great. We didn't care. Whatever he brought home for dinner was good. We were going to eat it. It was great. The old man brought it home. It's got to be good, right? Wherever we were going for dinner, don't matter. Maybe McDonald's, fish sticks, smell, didn't matter. But when he brought home that Atari, because he was a big kid just like us, he was going to play it just like us. So when he brought home the Atari and the first game was Combat, it didn't matter that it was a bunch of little blocks on the screen with a little block being shot, 3 blocks that looked like a tank, and then you played Adventure and the dragon looked like 3 blocks, and your sword was an arrow. Didn't matter. In 1980, it was like having teleportation. It would be like the difference between having a car and a Enterprise starship, because we didn't have anything like that before. Not at the house. I mean, there was arcades and all that other stuff, and we were one of the first people on our block to have that. And when he bought that home from base, that was one of the coolest. We played it together. I remember us playing hours on end with it together. And like I said, 6 years old doing stuff with your old man, that's great. But it was cool because there was nothing else like it. And it is the reason why I don't play games now. I don't do video games, and I don't do online games. I don't do anything because I was a obsessed kid then. I needed to beat Frogger. I needed to beat River Raid. I needed to beat Pac-Man. I needed to beat a Missile Command, even though there was no way to beat Missile Command. When the cheesy Empire Strikes Back came out, and there was no way to win it because adepts were always going to get to the power station. I had to win that game. But more on that, that's one of the great memories I have as a kid is when he brought that Atari home, and he played it for the first couple hours, and he finally let me play it, and then we had the different controls. Every week we had a different control with it, like the paddle, because the paddle didn't come with it. You had to go through every week for like 2 years straight. He would come home with a control, or he would come home with a game, and eventually we had like a lot of games. And those games were expensive back then because they were expensive to make back then. And I had that all the way up until the 80s and 90s because they kept remaking the 2600, then the games worked. So yeah, it was a good time, man. It was a good time. Let's see, 2000 thing. Vikram Behra, Vikram Behera. All right. 2016 was the era of movie pundits. They and critics had massive sway over the audience, and the years to come, and all became irrelevant. Math became king. Exactly, exactly. Pundits and loud fans. Because like I said, I didn't know at the time that just enjoying Zack Snyder's content was enough. I didn't know I had to scream and holler and piss people off and terrorize people like these other guys who thought they were getting a paycheck from Marvel just to screw up our fun. I didn't know I had to. I didn't know I had to scream to an executive and say I really like this. I thought by paying my money, I did what I was supposed to do as a fan. I didn't know that I had to put on combat boots to go fight for Zack Snyder's Justice League, to go fight for BVS, to go fight for Man of Steel. Shouldn't have to do that. I paid my money. You got my money. You continue to get my money, and I had to fight a war. Everything we've had to get when it comes to this universe, we've had to fight for. Other fandoms haven't had to do that as much. And I hope the fighting is over with, to be honest with you. And the critics, look at Black Adam. The critics destroyed that movie. You know what? But the critics have different criteria. And I think now more than ever, we understand we need to be very careful with the opinions that we take into account when it comes to these things. So, all right. How you doing, Cisco? I feel The Witcher was below Cavill, not a. There's some people that might disagree with you, even if they had a. I didn't watch it enough. I watched the first 2 seasons. Actually, I watched the first season and a half. I The second season lost me. First season was kind of cool, and once I realized that I was being led around out of time and place, but you know, that's just me being an idiot. Stella, remember I always said that there might be a clause in all of his contracts that Superman takes priority in his time allocation over The Witcher, Argyle, Highlander. Yeah, and Argyle sounds cool, and the Highlanders is is a cool project. They're not Superman. They're not Superman. So you know. All right, integrity. 35 straight months of Zack. Zack is back, and he will direct Zack Snyder's Justice League, starring Ben Affleck and Henry Cavill. It was only a matter of time until the incompetent former regime was replaced by SnyderVerse. I, it's a lot. It's a lot. But like I said, you're like you're like that beaver. He's going to stop that damn river no matter what he say. He's going to continue to put that mud, no sticks together till that water is stopped. You are a persistent beaver, man. Logic wins. Logic wins. Yeah, common sense and logic, and patience. Patience also wins. All right, Cavill deliberately stayed busy while. Oh, yep. Cavill, yep. There you go. There's that P word again. All right, guys. All right, guys. I am losing steam, both nasally and throat wise. It is time for me to get those little pink pills and go for it and put myself in a Benadryl coma, a safe Benadryl coma. So yeah, this is going to be a pretty short show, but hey, thank you for everybody who came in tonight. Thank you for everybody who brought in topics and questions and stuff that enhance the stream. I should be back to my normal self in a few days, and who knows, I might pop in and do, like I said, as the news comes out, you might see me doing a lot of midnight streams just to cover everything and get my point of view in. So, but like I said, thank you. Okay, somebody's got to clip me saying what? Oh, geez, what did I do? What did I say, Kiki? I mean, clip me saying your name. That's usually enough. But what did I say? Um, but yeah, good seeing all you guys in there. So thank you all for showing. Like I said, I might stream tomorrow night. This is gonna be it's gonna be the first time in 10 weeks that we don't have Game of Thrones to talk about. So we won't have another streaming tonight, tomorrow night at 7. But we may have a late night stream depending on what's going on and how I feel. And like I said, as the news hits, I will jump on. Yeah. Yeah. See that. The chat is gonna give me. But yeah, guys, thank you for showing up tonight. And I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this up. Let's see. Wow, they're doing fireworks out here. All right, cool. So I just want to make sure I got my banners up. All right, and once again, like and subscribe to both. If you're already here, you're already subscribed to Point Diction Lounge for the most part. But if you could do kindly go over to my link that's pinned to the top here, and Stella's put it in the chat as well. Also, you could also go to www.thescifcenter.com, and all of my social media, including my TikTok page, I do not sing and dance, are all on my homepage. So, all right, guys, thank you for everything, and we will see you next time we see you.